Hey everybody, Michael here from Atomic Blender. On Saturday morning, February 28th, the United States and Israel launched a series of attacks against Iran, with multiple missile strikes across the country causing widespread damage, including the death of the leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And while as of this recording, we haven't heard any information about damage to any of the nuclear facilities in Iran, I did want to look specifically at the Bushehr nuclear power plant, the country's only operating civilian nuclear power plant. And although we haven't seen any specific reports or damage coming from the plant, any damage to an operating plant or to the spent fuel that is stored there could result in regional public health impacts if something did go wrong. For context, the Bushehr nuclear power plant is located on the west coast of Iran, on the Arabian Gulf. Originally built as a 2-unit site, Unit 1 went into commercial operation in 2013, while Unit 2 remains somewhat unfinished. The design of these plants is also very interesting. The project started as a German Siemens Kraftwerk Union project in 1975 for the 2 large PWR units. The original Bushehr reactors were intended to be modeled after the German Biblis B reactors, which are 1,300 megawatt pressurized water reactors. However, after construction started and about $3 billion of payments, the Islamic Revolution halted the project in 1979, with Unit 1 substantially complete and Unit 2 about half complete. And citing a lack of payments from the new Iranian regime, the German contractors left the project entirely and withdrew any ongoing support to finish the project. The construction site then sat idle for over a decade, and it wasn't until the mid-90s that the Russians became involved. And in 1995, they signed a contract with Iran to complete the plant, using as much of the existing infrastructure as possible. However, with the plant construction around 80% complete on Unit 1 and 50% on Unit 2, the contract stipulated that the Russians should reuse as much of the existing infrastructure that was already in place as possible. And this presented an interesting problem. Because the Russians didn't have access to all the technical information about the German components that were still at the site, this meant that they had to get creative with the equipment that was available. Because the original design was the Siemens Kraftwerk Union pressurized water reactor, but the Russians instead were actually going to build a VVR 1000 and try and fit it inside the existing containment structure that was already built. And there are some major design differences between the two. So this is the plant layout of the original Siemens Kraftwerk Union pressurized water reactor that was going to be built in Bushehr. In the typical German style, it has this large spherical containment liner on the outside here in light blue, and then inside there's a number of components. The reactor pressure vessel itself is in red in the center, and then connected to the steam generators here in blue. The reactor coolant pump here also in red to indicate it's part of the primary circuit, and accumulator safety injection tanks here in green on the side. A few things that are interesting that are not in typical US PWRs. The spent fuel pool is here on the left inside containment, along with the refueling/spent fuel handling machine up above. This means that new fuel and spent fuel is all stored inside containment, which does provide a little bit of additional flexibility for operations, and it means that the spent fuel is protected inside what is generally a more thick and more robust containment structure. There's also a very large external elevator and crane system in order to be able to bring in steam generators. So here there's a steam generator that's being brought in, it'll then be rotated vertical and slid into place. And here's another cutaway of the same reactor in Germany. You have the reactor in the center, steam generator, pressurizer vessels, spent fuel stored inside containment along with the refueling machine, the outside gantry crane, in order to lift components in and out. There's also an image of the reactor vessel itself. The fuel assembly is contained here in the center region, and the control rod drive mechanisms up above. And the flow path of water is generally the water comes in here through the inlet, gets pressed down along the downcomer, is mixed a bit down at the bottom, and then is pushed up through the fuel assemblies. It warms up, and then leaves through the hot leg out here. We then follow that same route. It would then go into the steam generator. The steam generator would create the steam, which would then go off over to the turbine over here. So overall, pretty typical pressurized water reactor circuit. But the problem became that because the Germans had pulled out of the project while it was partially complete, the Russians had to step in and reuse as much of the existing equipment as possible, while still trying to build their own VVR 1000. Because the Russian VVR design is very different from the Siemens design. This image shows the layout of a typical Russian VVR 1000 reactor. And overall it is pretty similar, but there are some major differences. We still have the reactor in the center here in red with the hot and cold legs. But one of the biggest differences here is the fact that the steam generators are no longer vertical. Instead, in the Russian designs, they're horizontal. So we see the 4 steam generators here laid out horizontally. Whereas in the German Siemens design and the US designs, the steam generators are going to be vertical. Many of the other components are going to be very similar. You have the reactor coolant pumps in green, 1, 2, 3, 4, along with the pressurizer and the safety injection systems. But this does mean that the internal layout of a VBR 1000 is going to be very different from what the Siemens original design specifications were. And the reactor pressure vessel itself is also going to be very different. The VBR design is a bit taller, Although the same general principle applies, you have hot water come in here along the side, gets pressed along the downcomer, pushed up through the fuel assemblies, through the control rod drive controls, and then pushed out on the hot leg again. But the overall design of the pressure vessel and the supporting components is going to be very different between the two. So the Russians are not going to be able to reuse things like the pressure vessels, reactor coolant pumps, and some of the other large components that are part of the reactor primary system. The same goes for the steam generators and a number of the other control systems. Because the Russians didn't have access to these components, they did have to fabricate new versions of their own. But because the contract with Iran stated they should reuse as many of the components as possible, that meant that there ended up being a mix of different design components and interfaces within the reactor itself. And according to a local report, 24% of the parts are German origin, 36% are Iranian-made, and 40% are Russian-made. The result is a modified version of the VVR-1000, which was called version V446, which is basically a VVR-1000 that got jammed into the existing space of the Kraftwerk Union Siemens reactor design. And the result is, from the outside, a nuclear power plant that looks very much like the German design, but inside has a reactor core and components that are largely Russian, making it a little bit of a Frankenstein reactor. Due to the complex nature of the reactor design itself, though, although the plant was technically owned and operated by the Iranians, Russian specialists were on site in order to provide oversight and technical support for the reactor operation itself. This started in 2013 when the reactor began operating, with the number of Russians on site gradually decreasing over the years until it was fully turned over to the Iranians for their operation. And pretty much before the reactor even began operating, Iran's neighbors in the Gulf region have always been concerned about the safety and operation of the plant. And now with the recent military strikes on Iran's infrastructure by the US and Israel, these concerns are coming up once again. As of Monday, March 2nd, the IAEA has stated that it does not see any indications that Bushehr or any other nuclear facilities in Iran have been hit.
All of us have been following with concern the military attacks in the Islamic Republic of Iran and in the Middle East. So far, no elevation of radiation levels above the usual background levels has been detected in countries bordering Iran. Regarding the status of the nuclear installations in Iran, up to now, we have no indication that any of the nuclear installations, including the Bushehr nuclear power plant, the Tehran research reactor, or other nuclear fuel cycle facilities, have been damaged or hit. Efforts to contact the Iranian nuclear regulatory authorities through the IEC continue, with no response so far. Armed attacks on nuclear facilities should never take place and could result in radioactive releases with grave consequences within and beyond the boundaries of the state which has been attacked.
At this point, it is also not clear if the reactor is still operating or not. Generally, from a nuclear safety perspective, it would be better if the reactor was shut down if there was any indication or additional risk that the plant could be subject to any military action. Because as we've seen at other sites such as Fukushima or the plants in Ukraine, even if a reactor is shut down, it still produces decay heat, which does need to be managed. And a loss of any of the systems that support that decay heat removal, which would include pumps, off-site power, emergency diesel generators, and access to cooling water, loss of any of those things increase the risk of managing decay heat properly, which could theoretically lead to some sort of radioactive release if cooling is not maintained to the reactor core itself and to the spent fuel that's stored on site. However, the longer that the reactor has been shut down, then the less the amount of decay heat there is that needs to be dealt with, and the easier that it becomes to manage over time. So if there's any indication that the plant could be subject to a military strike, then the prudent thing to do would be to shut the reactors down and be prepared to manage decay heat over the long term, considering that there could be loss of off-site power or loss of cooling. If the operators are prepared at the site, then they can manage it much more effectively than if it suddenly happens while the reactor is operating. And although plants like Bushehr would have emergency diesel generators, the amount of fuel oil that's on site to support them is typically only going to last around a week or so. Otherwise, it's going to have to rely on logistics from imports of additional fuel oil or availability of off-site power from the Iranian grid, both of which it's reasonable to say are under threat at the moment. So depending on if a strike does happen at the plant, or even if there is just a loss of off-site power, or even if there's just damage to the Iranian electrical grid, this could put the plant into a much more serious condition that could stress the operators and the design basis of the plant. Because in most cases, the plant is not designed to be in an active war zone. Things like loss of offsite power are considered, but they are assumed to be able to be restored within a reasonable amount of time, usually within a week. So a prolonged ongoing conflict certainly increases the risk of that. Furthermore, the site is certainly going to be considered a strategic asset. We saw that in Ukraine when Russia took over the Zaporizhzhia plant. So far, the military action is limited to airstrikes, so we may not see that happening yet. But there are a few things that we will want to watch out for over the next few weeks. The first is we'll have to see if the Bushehr plant actually still has electrical power from the grid and is able to continue either operating or maintain a cold shutdown position. This is probably the most important way in order to keep the reactor and the fuel safe. Second, since getting information out of Iran may be difficult, then monitoring agencies like the IAEA and the neighboring countries would have to look for any indications of increased radiation above background. This would be a clear indication that there's been some sort of radiation release, either from a fuel facility or from the reactor itself. If we do see elevated radiation levels, this would then allow the IAEA and neighboring countries to take appropriate action to help protect citizens and the public that are nearby. And third, although the public may not have direct access, satellite imagery would be able to provide governments and the military clear indication of if any attack has occurred at the plant or if there's any damage. This could then be used to determine if there's any degradation in the safety systems or the structural integrity of the containment themselves. This is an evolving situation, and I'll try to provide more information as I find out. But if you did find this video interesting, please do consider subscribing to the channel so that you stay up to date. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.